Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Today is explanation of Renegade Immortal episode number 67 based on novel. So let's start. The old man slapped the dragon turtle and it let out a roar at the chaotic broken stars that shattered the debris. Although it was silent, the ring was pushed in and the debris was moved out of the way. The old man jumped onto the hand of the turtle dragon. The turtle dragon took a deep breath and all of the surrounding spiritual energy was sucked into its mouth. Then the beast let out another roar. This time, a visible sound wave was seen right before it smashed through the ring. A 100-meter wide tunnel appeared inside the ring and all of the debris was turned to dust. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He was surprised at the power of this beast, but he wasn't afraid of it if it were ever to come to a real fight. After all, from what he had seen, the attack was linear, and with how nimble Wang Lin was in a fight, how could he let the beast hit him with that kind of attack? The old man charged out and followed closely behind the roar like an arrow. In the blink of an eye, he was almost within 100 meters of the ring. Shortly after, the debris in the ring formed clones of the old man. The old man didn't panic. He slapped his bag of holding and more than 10 pieces of jade flew out. The jades circled the old man and flew out at the clones just as they charged at him. Every single jade quickly flew at each of the clones. Then the jades exploded into clouds of silver dust that mysteriously turned into clones of the old man as well. As a result, the scene in the ring of the chaotic broken stars became very crazy. The old man used the clones formed by the jades to block the clones formed by the debris, then he used this moment to charge through the chaotic broken stars. The moment he went through, all of those clones formed by the jades silently disappeared. All of the clones formed by the debris let out angry roars as they disappeared as well. The old man turned around and looked at Wang Lin outside the ring. He let out a snort and waved his hand. The turtle dragon shrunk until it was a black light that flew towards him. However, the chaotic broken stars had no reaction to the black light at all. It allowed it to fly to the old man before turning back into a turtle dragon. The old man jumped onto the back of the beast and went deeper. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He didn't immediately get up but silently waited. This wait lasted for 7 days. As for the mosquito beast, Wang Lin didn't put it back into his bag. Instead, he let it roam around. The beast originally came from the Sea of Devils. Now that it was back at its home, it was very relaxed. After 7 days, the figure of the turtle dragon appeared again with the old man sitting on top. Beside the old man were 7 thin, golden lights that were rapidly moving. But every time they tried to escape, there would be a light screen that blocked their path. The old man looking at Wang Lin with a surprised expression, but he didn't say anything and left the chaotic broken stars the same way he came in. After he came out, he let out a smile and raised his hand. He grabbed one of the golden lines and threw it at Wang Lin as he said, "Fellow cultivator, I'll give you this strand of aurora fire." That golden line moved like lightning toward Wang Lin. One moment it was far away from Wang Lin, but it was already in front of him the next. Wang Lin's expression remained the same as his right hand pointed in the air. His life and death domain immediately activated in his soul. The life and death domain focused on change. After all, life and death constantly change between one and the other. The golden line immediately slowed down and became very obedient as it curled around Wang Lin's finger. Wang Lin said, in a husky voice, "To refuse would be disrespectful." The old man's eyes lit up. He was sure now that Wang Lin was a soul formation cultivator. After all, this aurora fire would devour a nascent soul, so only after forming their origin soul could one safely handle it. The old man let out a mischievous smile and said, "Since you don't want to team up, I'll take my leave." He slapped the beast below him and red clouds gathered again as he left. Wang Lin pondered a little, stood up, and looked at the golden line. But just at this moment, the mosquito beast appeared before him and started staring at the golden line. The mosquito beast's eyes revealed fear but also greed. It was as if it wanted to eat it but didn't dare to. Wang Lin was surprised as he looked at the obedient golden line around his finger. Then he asked the mosquito beast, "This thing is useful to you?" The mosquito struggled before finally gently nodding with its big head, but then he revealed a trace of fear. Wang Lin activated the death part of his domain and surrounded the golden line. A light appeared around the golden line, then it shivered and dimmed down, as it had become unstable. The mosquito beast revealed a joyous expression as Wang Lin threw the golden line at him and the two collided. Suddenly, the golden line shivered and entered the mosquito beast's head. The mosquito beast let out a few miserable groans as it fell to the ground and began to struggle, but its eyes revealed joy. Wang Lin was very surprised as he stared at the mosquito beast. After 3 hours, the mosquito beast stopped struggling. Popping sounds came from its body and it grew larger. The mosquito beast was now 30 meters large and could be considered a small hill. Its proboscis became even longer, making it look even more frightening. In reality, this aurora fire was a material for refining treasures that only soul formation cultivators could handle as it would devour nascent souls to grow. Beasts normally stay far away from aurora fire. But this mosquito beast had followed Wang Lin for a while now, and after devouring so many pills, it had gone from a low-quality spirit beast to a mid-quality spirit beast, which was the same as a late-stage nascent soul cultivator. Originally, the mosquito beast couldn't fuse with the golden line, but after it was weakened by Wang Lin's death domain, it was able to be absorbed by the beast and strengthened it. Wang Lin stood up and slapped the mosquito beast. The beast immediately got the hint and returned to Wang Lin's bag. After a short period of time, Wang Lin passed through the ring of the chaotic broken stars. He could easily pass through when he was at the core formation stage. Thanks to his life and death domain, he was able to make his cultivation level look much weaker than it really was, so the clones created were very weak as well. After walking through the ring, he didn't stop and quickly went toward the entrance of the land of the ancient god. It didn't take long before he arrived at the entrance. Just before he stepped in, the mosquito beast flew out. It circled Wang Lin a few times before roaring at the entrance and looking at Wang Lin with a begging expression. Wang Lin's divine sense spread out and found a small rift in the distance. A golden line came out of the rift, releasing a bright light. Seeing this, Wang Lin understood and laughed. What? Was one not enough? The mosquito quickly nodded and immediately tried to please Wang Lin by rubbing its proboscis over him. If anyone else saw this, they would be terrified as not many would allow a proboscis like that to touch them at will. Wang Lin let out a smile as he looked at the golden line in the distance and said, "No rush. Let me seal the surroundings with restrictions so no one else can bother us, then I'll gather them for you for later." As he spoke, his hand constantly moved, causing numerous restrictions to appear. These restrictions were very different from when he was at the nascent soul stage. Before, these were only powerful restrictions, but now that they contained his domain, their power was several times stronger. These restrictions quickly spread out and soon, a large restriction formation that covered hundreds of meters took form. After he finished all of this, he arrived next to where the golden lines were. At this moment, the golden line seemed to notice and quickly backed away. In the blink of an eye, most of it had gone back inside. The mosquito beast panicked and started to roar but didn't dare to move up. He only looked at Wang Lin. Wang Lin's eyes lit up, then he reached out with his hand. He got a hold of the golden line and pulled it back hard. The golden line was pulled out by Wang Lin and furiously tried to escape. The death domain quickly activated and the golden line dimmed. He threw it into the air and the mosquito beast fused with it. At this moment, the rift that the golden line came from began to shrink. Seeing that it was about to disappear, Wang Lin sat down. His origin soul came out and quickly entered the rift. The moment his origin entered the rift, his eyes were blinded by a golden light. He saw a giant body that emitted a blinding golden light and countless golden lines moved around within this space. Without a word, Wang Lin grabbed a handful of golden lines and stored them in his origin soul before quickly leaving through the rift. The moment his origin soul came out of the rift closed. The 10 or so golden lines in his hand dimmed under the power of his death domain, then he threw them at the mosquito beast. The mosquito beast revealed an excited look, but there were too many golden lines for it to devour at once. Wang Lin kept a bit of his death domain on the golden lines so they would remain in that state and said, "You can slowly eat them here. I'm going to make a trip into the land of the ancient god." With that, his body disappeared. When he reappeared, he was at the entrance to the land of the ancient god. After taking a deep breath, his eyes lit up, he clenched his teeth, and finally said a few words in the ancient god's tongue while forming seals with his hand. Suddenly, his body became blurred and then disappeared. Wang Lin appeared on top of a spinning stone pillar in the endless dark tunnel of the first trial. After coming back here, Wang Lin felt melancholy, but he was in a rush. He immediately sat down and sent out several restrictions before finally taking out the inkstone. He took a deep breath and then placed one attack restriction after another on the inkstone at a very quick pace. As time passed, more and more restrictions were placed on the inkstone. After he finished the initial steps, he took out a soul flag. After fusing the two together, he continued refining. Time slowly passed. Wang Lin didn't take his time, he refined as quickly as he could. One by one, restrictions landed on the flag, and after an unknown amount of time had passed, there were finally 999 restrictions on it. Only one more left for it to reach its first stage of completion. At this moment, Wang Lin began to hesitate. If his guess was wrong and the divine retribution lightning strikes, it would be very difficult to protect this flag. Once it was damaged, unless he could get more ink stones, he would have to get the one he had left with Li Muwen. If he stopped now, although the restriction flag would be weak, it wouldn't break. If he uses it carefully, then it could barely work. After pondering a little, his eyes lit up. If this restriction flag doesn't reach the first completion stage, then it would be too weak to be of any use in the Rain Celestial Realm. He clenched his teeth as his right hand formed the last restriction and placed it on the restriction flag. Suddenly, the flag shook as slivers of black gas came out of it, followed by a primitive aura. Wang Lin scanned it with his divine sense and was shocked. He knew that a pure attack restriction flag was going to be powerful, but after a quick check, he found out that it was more than 10 times stronger than it was before it was complete. As a result, this restriction flag was a threat to even soul formation cultivators. All of the restrictions had fused into one, and he could sacrifice 9 restrictions to use the restriction flag's spirit ability. This ability could restrain all of the spiritual energy in the heavens, and even the spiritual energy within cultivators, creating an area without any spiritual energy. As a result, unless the cultivator had celestial spiritual energy, anyone in its range would lose their ability to control spiritual energy for a short period of time. Wang Lin's eyes lit up as he clenched the restriction flag. His confidence in this trip to the celestial realm greatly increased. As for the divine retribution lightning, it never came. Wang Lin was very excited as he knew he had won the gamble. The body of the ancient god was its own realm, so the divine retribution couldn't feel the existence of the restriction flag. He took a deep breath and continued to place restrictions on it. However, he wasn't able to reach the second completion stage as there weren't that many pure attack restrictions. This was the one key limiting factor of single attribute restriction flags. After placing 18 more sets of different restrictions onto the flag, Wang Lin let out a sigh. He had already done his best. If he wished to continue, then he would have to study more restrictions. This was the only way to increase the amount of pure attack restrictions. Wang Lin had already made up his mind to learn more restrictions in the future. Just at its first completion, the flag was already this powerful, so he was very hopeful to see what it will be like once it reaches its second completion. At that stage, it would probably be able to shock soul transformation cultivators. As Wang Lin thought about this, he became very excited. He put away the complete flag and took out the damaged one. After looking at it, he gave up on placing the last restriction on it. The main use for this flag will be to summon the divine retribution lightning. After completing the restriction flag, Wang Lin jumped up and flew toward the darkness of the tunnel. Wang Lin was very familiar with this area. After all, back then he had to slowly advance through this dangerous area. Even though he was doing it again, he didn't become careless and descended with caution. He picked this place to get a spirit beast because although there weren't many here, all of them were far more powerful than the ones in the Sea of Devils. There were even some desolate beasts here. Of course, even Wang Lin wasn't willing to mess with those. He was after high-quality spirit beasts that were about the same as a soul formation cultivator. The reason he was picking a beast here was because he had a treasure called the Beast Trap. This trap would allow him to control any beast at the cost of a lot of spiritual energy. Wang Lin got the trap when he first arrived in the land of the ancient god from those ancient cultivators in exchange for helping them. In the years after, he had found some low-quality spirit beasts to test it on, which was why he was here now. It could be said that Wang Lin had prepared all he could in order to obtain celestial spiritual energy from the celestial realm. Once he catches a high-quality spirit beast, something on the same level a soul formation cultivator, it will help him out a lot. However, during this period of time, he will have to inject spiritual energy into the treasure to prevent the beast from breaking free. He had his divine sense spread out the entire time as he sank down, but he found no spirit beasts at all. This confused him greatly as he remembered that when he was this far in last time, he had already seen several spirit beasts. He pondered for a bit before continuing to sink down. He soon arrived at where that 10,000-meter dragon fell last time. Standing there, Wang Lin began to hesitate. If he were to continue to sink, then he might run into desolate beasts. But he didn't meet a single spirit beast on the entire way down. It seemed this trip was a waste. After pondering a bit more, he formed a seal to leave the land of the ancient god. After all, it was simply too dangerous to go farther. Wang Lin didn't want to risk too much just for a spirit beast. However, just as he formed the seal, 2 eyes like big pearls appeared in the darkness below him, then a red dragon suddenly charged out. Wang Lin was able to immediately notice that this dragon was the same one from last time. Just as he was about to leave, he suddenly stopped and noticed that there was a green toad in front of the dragon. This toad was about 10 meters tall, and as it kicked off with its back foot, it suddenly moved forward with the dragon chasing behind it. Without a word, Wang Lin sank down in the rock. His divine sense spread out to check out what was going on. He had already finished the seal and only needed to activate it to leave. Now that he was in no rush to leave, he was interested in what was happening. He saw the red dragon open its mouth and coil up its body. When it uncoiled, it shot forward. It whipped its body to wrap around the toad. The toad suddenly paused as the dragon attempted to warp around it. Suddenly, there was a bright flash from the toad that lit up the whole area. After the light dimmed, there was a ball of lightning around the toad. The red dragon let out a roar and quickly dodged. It seemed to be very afraid of that lightning. Wang Lin took a deep breath. He was shocked. Although the toad's lightning didn't look all that special, it gave Wang Lin the same feeling he got when he encountered the divine retribution lightning for the first time. This toad might be a desolate beast as well if it's able to fight with the red dragon. But he immediately rejected that idea as he saw the toad go down and land on a rock nearby with despair in its eyes. From the looks of it, it didn't seem like it was a desolate beast. After all, a battle between two desolate beasts wouldn't be decided in one attack. Wang Lin suddenly felt very excited. He wasn't willing to mess with a desolate beast, but if this toad was a high-quality spirit beast, then it would fit his needs. At this point, the red dragon let out a roar. Suddenly, 10 balls of blood appeared around it. Inside the balls of blood were souls of spirit beasts. The balls of blood rushed toward the toad. The despair in the toad's eyes deepened as Wang Lin clenched his teeth and jumped out. The moment he appeared, the red dragon charged toward Wang Lin with a mocking expression. 3 of the balls of blood went toward Wang Lin. After seeing the spirit beast souls inside the balls, Wang Lin finally understood why he hadn't spotted any beasts this entire time. This dragon must have gone crazy, killed all the spirit beasts here, and refined their souls into these balls of blood. Wang Lin's expression remained the same in the face of the ball of blood as he waved his hand. There was a sudden flash of light and a bronze circle appeared. This bronze circle was the size of a bracelet. If one looked at it closely, they would see the faces of hundreds of beasts that looked alive. The moment this bronze circle appeared, all of the beast souls became scared and avoided the circle. It quickly arrived above the toad, became large, and was about to descend. Wang Lin shouted, "If you don't want to die, don't struggle." He then didn't even look at the bronze circle as his body disappeared within this tunnel. All of this happened very quickly. The dragon would have never thought that Wang Lin would have the ability to leave this place at any time. After realizing that Wang Lin's presence was gone, the dragon let out a roar and a ring of blood expanded. Everything that was touched by this ring was turned to dust. The toad was going to dodge the bronze circle, but after hearing Wang Lin's words, its eyes lit up. Instead of dodging, it jumped into the bronze circle and let it lock around its neck. Just as the red ring got near, the toad disappeared. The dragon's angry roar echoed throughout the tunnel. Wang Lin appeared at the entrance. Just as he appeared, his face immediately turned pale and he quickly took out several bottles of pills before sitting down to cultivate. Beside him sat a large, green toad. The toad looked curiously at its surroundings. Around its neck was a bronze collar. The mosquito beast noticed Wang Lin's presence and immediately came over. However, it also noticed the toad and growled at it. That toad rolled its eyes and flicked its tongue out. The tongue flew out like lightning toward the mosquito, who dodged it and immediately lunged at the toad with its sharp proboscis. The toad revealed a look of disdain before its belly suddenly swelled up and a ball of lightning shot out at the mosquito. The mosquito let out a roar as it opened its mouth, spat out 10 golden lines that formed a net, and trapped the ball of lightning. Just at this moment, Wang Lin opened his eyes, frowned, and shouted, "Enough." The toad lazily took in a breath of air and swallowed the lightning again. The mosquito beast viciously stared at the toad but didn't dare to move closer. There was, after all, an entire grade of difference between the mosquito and the toad. Wang Lin's face was slightly pale. When the trap got around the toad's neck, a ton of spiritual energy was sucked out of him. This almost turned in him to a mummy before successfully controlling the toad. The moment he got control of the toad, he suddenly felt something in his mind. This was information about the beast he had trapped. This toad was a thunder toad and it was a high-quality thunder spirit beast. According to Wang Lin's knowledge, this treasure would take spiritual energy from him to maintain control of the beast at set periods of time. These intervals were set, so after leaving behind a command for the two beasts to be quiet, he sat down and began cultivating again. 6 days later, the beast trap started absorbing more spiritual energy, but since Wang Lin was prepared this time, he wasn't afraid. After it stopped absorbing, he swallowed spirit pills to recover his spiritual energy. He then stood up and waved his hand. Suddenly, the beast trap shrank. The toad let out an unwilling roar as it shrank with it before returning to Wang Lin's hand. All of the beast faces were now gone from the bracelet. They were replaced with the face of a toad. After confirming the time intervals in which the beast trap would suck spiritual energy from him, Wang Lin got up and prepared to leave the chaotic broken stars. However, the mosquito let out anxious roars and attracted Wang Lin's attention. He quickly flew to where the golden lines were coming from and stopped. For some reason, a fist-sized rift had appeared again. Wang Lin took a look, then his origin soul left his body and entered the rift. In an instant, he grabbed dozens of golden lines, but just as he was about to leave, something hundreds of times thicker than the golden lines extended from the sun-like object. The moment this thick line appeared, the golden sun shrank a size. Everywhere the thick line went, the other golden lines avoided it. It charged directly at Wang Lin, and before it even got close, Wang Lin felt a destructive force coming his way. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he took a look at this object. He didn't attack but quickly withdrew his origin soul back to his body and escaped into the distance. The mosquito seemed to notice something as it stared at the golden lines in Wang Lin's hand and followed behind. Wang Lin only backed off a short distance before he heard a thunderous roar and countless swirls appeared next to the fist-sized rift. The swirls spread until they made the rift larger, then the large, golden line charged at Wang Lin. Wang Lin didn't turn his head as he quickly escaped. The chaotic broken stars wasn't that big, so he soon went past the restrictions he had set. He grabbed the mosquito beast, put it away, and charged into the ring of the chaotic broken stars. The moment he entered the ring, the very large golden line smashed into the restrictions Wang Lin had set up. However, Wang Lin's restrictions were instantly destroyed and weren't able to delay the golden line at all. Wang Lin saw this with his divine sense. This caused him to frown as he flew out from the chaotic broken stars ring. The golden line seemed to dread the chaotic broken stars ring. It was as if there was a power preventing it from going further. It coiled up like a snake and pointed at Wang Lin. Wang Lin stood outside the chaotic broken stars ring and looked at the golden line before leaving. He knew that those 2 trips into the rift were too much. They clearly caused something like the ruler of the golden lines to appear to stop him. This was probably the reason why the old man with the turtle dragon had only taken 7 and left. After surrounding the golden lines with his death domain, he took out the mosquito beast and gave them to it. The mosquito beast devoured them one by one. This beast had been very well fed these past few days as these golden lines were very nutritious. Thanks to these golden lines, the day where it becomes a high-quality spirit beast wasn't far. After leaving the chaotic broken stars, he pondered a bit and then slapped his bag of holding to take out a small cauldron. This cauldron was the thing needed to go to the rain celestial realm, the rain cauldron. This cauldron wasn't very big, it could be held in one hand. It also looked very ordinary with no marks on it, but if one looked with their divine sense, they would notice a sliver of aura that was far more powerful than spiritual energy. This aura was clearly several times more pure than spiritual energy. Wang Lin knew that this was celestial spiritual energy. However, this aura was simply too weak to be used for cultivation. It could only be used as a key to open the celestial gate. After he obtained this rain cauldron, Wang Lin had studied it many times. He looked at it for a while before putting it away. According to what normally happens, once the rain cauldrons appear, that means that the celestial gates are about to open. Many years had already passed since they appeared, so the day should arrive soon. Unfortunately, that messy old man didn't give him an exact time, or else it wouldn't be this complicated. Wang Lin let out a sigh and took out a piece of jade from his bag of holding. He checked it for a bit before jumping onto the back of the mosquito beast and went toward the direction of Hu Fen. His next objective was to go into the foreign battleground to gather enough wandering souls to make more devils and to make the final preparations for going into the celestial realm. There was a large formation in the center of Hu Fen. This was a single-direction transfer array that opens every 500 years for the disciples that are inside the foreign battleground to return. On this day, a person appeared outside of this formation. This person was wearing white, seemed gentle, and looked like the son of a rich family. His eyes were like the stars and his skin was as white as pearl. He studied the structure of the formation. This person was Wang Lin. It would still be several years before this formation opens, but he couldn't wait all those years. He decided to use this formation and his status as a soul devourer as a guide to attempt a reverse transfer. After studying the transfer array for several days, he pondered a bit and then his eyes lit up as he changed the formation a bit and walked inside. He spread out his origin soul as it slowly merged with the formation. The symbols on the formation slowly lit up and gathered on his body. Slowly, Wang Lin disappeared. The moment he disappeared, the formation shattered and couldn't be used anymore. Several years passed. At a transfer array in a rank 3 cultivation country in the south, all of the cultivators gathered there, waiting for a messenger from the rank 4 cultivation country to open up the tunnel to the foreign battleground. Sun Wen was a cultivator from the rank 4 cultivation country of Gong Sunday. He was here to be the messenger. Although he was only at the late stage of nascent soul, his family was a big deal in Gong Sun, so he was sent here to gain experience. Today was the first time he had ever opened the tunnel to the foreign battleground, so he was a bit nervous, but he was mostly enjoying the looks of admiration from everyone else. The sun was high in the sky. Sun Wen was wearing a blue robe and his hands were behind his back as he sat on a dragon chair that was floating in the air. Beside him stood 2 very beautiful girls. One of them was holding a big umbrella, providing him shade, and the other was holding a blue, porcelain bowl containing ice-cold plum soup. On the ground stood countless cultivators from this country. All of them were focused on waiting for the foreign battleground to open up. Among those people were the elders of various sects and their top disciples. They were going to train inside the foreign battleground in order to raise their cultivation level. Of course, there were also a few disciples that no one liked that were going to be thrown into the foreign battleground to let fate decide their life and death. Time slowly passed. Although it was very hot, since these people were cultivators, their bodies could bear the heat, so they didn't seem tired at all. There were several young disciples that looked up at Sun Wen with looks of admiration. Sun Wen enjoyed these kinds of gazes very much. He waved his hand and one of the girls immediately brought the bowl to him. He grabbed the spoon and ate a plum along with some soup and immediately felt a cool sensation spreading across his body. This plum wasn't a normal plum but a special herb that grew in Gongsun. Just drinking a mouthful would help increase one's cultivation by a considerable amount. This was especially true for specially made soup like this one. It was like the nectar of the plum. There was no doubt that Sun Wen was someone who liked to enjoy himself. As of this moment, 45 minutes had passed. Sun Wen put down the spoon and said, "You all know the rules of the foreign battleground, but I have an extra rule myself. Everything brought out must be examined by me before you can take it. Remember it well." The moment those words were spoken, everyone agreed. However, although some of the nascent soul cultivators agreed, they were all sneering in their hearts. Sun Wen slapped his bag of holding and 5 pieces of jade flew out. He bit his finger and dripped blood on the jades before throwing them forward. Suddenly, the 5 pieces of jade shot out, forming 5 rays of golden light, which then became a circular pattern. He chanted some weird words and the golden light released by the jades intensified. After a few seconds, Sun Wen took a deep breath. Sweat had appeared on his forehead. He took out a jade bottle, dumped out some pills, and ate them as he looked at the jades with a proud expression. The 5 pieces of jade's golden light became brighter and brighter until a vortex appeared in the middle. The vortex devoured the golden light and became bigger and bigger. Not long after, all of the golden light disappeared, leaving only the black vortex, which seemed really out of place. Waves of cold air blew out from the vortex. If one looked closely, they would see broken weapons, scattered materials, and corpses floating on the other side. Sun Wen coughed as the proud expression on his face became more obvious and he said, "Today." Just as he said those words, his eyes suddenly locked onto the black hole and revealed a shocked expression. At the same time, every cultivator on the ground sucked in a breath of cold air and looked at the vortex in terror. They saw an arm reach out from inside the vortex and grab hold of its edge. Suddenly, a hole was ripped open in the vortex and a young man in white walked out. The moment this person appeared, the blazing sun was suddenly blocked by clouds and the sky darkened. Sun Wen was stunned. With his heart pounding, he instantly noticed that he couldn't see through the cultivation of the person that walked out of the foreign battleground. But he did grow up inside a rank 4 cultivation country, so he had seen a bit. After a bit of deduction, he concluded that this person must be at the soul formation stage. He quickly stood up from the dragon chair and went up to Wang Lin. He bowed and said, "Junior Sun Wen from Gongsun greets senior." The person that walked out from the foreign battleground was obviously Wang Lin. After he walked out, he looked confusedly at his surroundings until he focused his gaze on Sun Wen and asked, "This place is Gongsun?" Sun Wen shivered as Wang Lin looked at him. He felt like all of his thoughts had been seen through. He quickly replied, "This place is not Gongsun but the training location for junior. This is the rank 3 cultivation country of Wu Wen." Wang Lin pondered for a while. He had seen Wu Wen on the map before. This was a small country at the southern end of the planet. The Sea of Devils was half a planet away, so it could be said that the trip back would be very long. Wang Lin had traveled very far in the foreign battleground in order to collect wandering souls. He looked at everyone below him and then disappeared. After seeing Wang Lin leave, Sun Wen let out a sigh of relief and wiped the sweat off his forehead. When he saw this person, he got the same feeling as when he would meet his family's ancestor. He wasn't in the mood for showing off anymore. After quickly leaving behind a few words, he left, as he needed to report this to the family right away. In his view, a soul formation cultivator that could walk out of the foreign battleground must have been someone well known. When Wang Lin reappeared, he was at the top of a mountain. This mountain was called Sky Pisser. It was the highest mountain in this country according to the map. On the top of the mountain, Wang Lin began to ponder. After years of using them, he didn't have many top-quality spirit stones left, and they were very rare in Suzaku. He decided to not use them to travel anymore. He would save them as a last measure. This trip to the foreign battleground was very bountiful. It seemed that when his origin soul formed, his soul devourer power also seemed to have evolved. He gently rubbed his brow and let out a faint smile. He felt very confident in this trip to the celestial realm as long as he doesn't meet any late-stage soul formation cultivators or that genius of Shui Yu. As for the mid-stage soul formation cultivators, he was 100% confident he could defeat them. Even if he were to meet a late-stage soul formation cultivator, he would still be able to safely escape thanks to all of the preparations he had made. In truth, there was another reason besides obtaining celestial spiritual energy that made Wang Lin prepare this much: to preserve his life. For a cultivator to enter the Rain Celestial Realm, they must lower their cultivation level to soul formation at most. If they use more power than soul formation level power, the space around them will collapse. This means that there is a high chance of soul transformation cultivators being in the Rain Celestial Realm. Although there won't be many of those people, there will still be a few of them. Even if they must restrain their cultivation level to soul formation, They are not people normal soul formation cultivators can deal with. This is why Wang Lin had prepared so much for this trip. As for the legendary ascendant cultivators that rarely showed themselves, it is very unlikely for any of them to show up in the Rain Celestial Realm. These were Wang Lin's deductions based on his years of cultivating, his understanding of Suzaku, and the difficulty of reaching the soul formation stage. Although this wasn't exactly accurate, it was not far from the truth. In truth, Wang Lin's guess was still a bit too high, as there were only 4 ascendant cultivators on Suzaku. 2 of them were at the early stage, 1 was at the mid stage, and the last one, the one who inherited the name Suzaku, was at the late stage. The 4 of them would not casually leave Suzaku and did not care about the affairs of the cultivation countries. There weren't many things that could move them. These 4 would only act when there were cultivators from another planet making a mess. Wang Lin took a deep breath. The spirit beasts and devils were all prepared. Even the fan with only 2 feathers had been refined by him in the foreign battleground. As for those 3 mysterious sword sheaths, they had also been refined by Wang Lin's origin soul. In addition to all of those, of the 10 instruments from the ancient cultivators, he had managed to break the seals on 3 of them in the past few years and made them his own. Inside his bag of holding was only one thing that he was still unsure of. It was a scroll that he had gotten off a random cultivator inside the Sea of Devils. The moment he opened the scroll, there was only darkness, but there was a dangerous aura that came out of the darkness. Wang Lin had only opened this scroll 3 times. The first time was when he had reached the core formation stage, the second time was when he had reached the nascent soul stage, and the third time was recently, when he reached the soul formation stage. Every time he opened it, it felt different, but there was always a mysterious force that would cause his heart to shake. Wang Lin let out a sigh as he waved his hand and the scroll appeared in his hand. As for who exactly he got this scroll from, he couldn't really remember. He threw the scroll into the air as his origin soul came out and began to refine it. This was a habit he had gained in the past several years. Every time he refined the scroll, he would gain a bit more connection with it. A few hours later, the sky darkened. His origin soul returned to his body and he put away the scroll. The day when the celestial gate opens should arrive soon. There is only one thing left to prepare. However, this preparation will require some 100-year-old or 1,000-year-old trees, Wang Lin muttered to himself, and then he spread out his divine sense and scanned the entire country. Then he moved and disappeared from the spot. 3 months later, he had traveled through the 7 surrounding cultivation countries and collected some 100-year-old trees. Then he created a cave in a mountain somewhere and began making wood carvings. It was too hard to find any 1,000-year-old trees, so he wasn't able to locate any. Even 100-year-old trees were hard to find. Inside the cave, Wang Lin threw away all his trivial thoughts and completely immersed himself in carving. This video will end here. Thank you for watching.